Hey, hey, and welcome to Breaking Bread, hosted by me, Crunk Chocolate, a show where I break verbal bread with the quote unquote enemy. Whenever Manchester City has an upcoming match, I will be here having a conversation with a contributor or someone who can give us general information about City's upcoming opponent. Shout out to all those watching on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. Please hit that thumbs up, like the video, and please, to all you lovelies watching the replay, you beautiful souls, I appreciate you, you little lights of mine. Just let us know what you thought of the show in general, especially those live ones. It appreciates us. But tomorrow, Manchester City play FC Copenhagen at the Park Inn. And we need to know what type of club we're about to see over these two legs. Joining me is a journalist, a part of Casper Kavardai Bold, Shady Gang. Please give it up for Morten Parsner. Yes.
Yeah, I'm getting all red faced already. I'm good, thank you. I'm super excited about tomorrow and the upcoming game. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm great, and thank you for having me on the show.
Trust me, the honor and pleasure is all ours. It's for being able to. I've been looking for someone to talk about this match for a while, and when I just found you guys, I was just, yes. And your partner who referred me to you, all have been just great people, and that is always good to see when you just reach out to strangers randomly on the internet. You're just like, hopefully this relationship is a positive one. You never know.
You never know. Well, Casper is a great guy all the way through. Yes. So you were fortunate.
Yes. What I would love to start the show with is getting to know you a little bit. Who is Morten? Do you cover FC Copenhagen only, or is there more that you do? Sorry if I butchered also Casper Kavardai Bolts. Just let us know a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, yes, as you said, my name is Morten Parsner. I am a Danish journalist from Copenhagen, which is a good thing since I am covering FC Copenhagen. Through this football media called Kvartibolt, which roughly translates to a quarter to football. And as Shades of Blue is focused on Manchester City, Kvartibolt is entirely concerning FC Copenhagen and everything around the football club. So we don't spend too much time around the other football teams in Denmark. However, in every game we are presented with the opposing team, we always try to get to know them a little, just as you guys are doing here. So it's roughly the Danish equivalent to Shades of Blue. As a journalist, I cover everything around Copenhagen in general as a local journalist, and that's not entirely focused on football, but that's a whole other story. Personally, I can tell you I've been a fan of FC Copenhagen since it must be 1998. So my mood and their success has been tightly welded together ever since.
Well, yes, we have that very much in common, because it is amazing how Manchester City can control my mental state for at least a few days until they play again. We also cover the women's side. Luckily, they seem to do well consistently. So when the men kind of have a dip, we at least have our baby blue baddies where we can be like, all right, they're great, their energy is fun, they all are very jovial people. So we just turn and start focusing on our women's side, and that brings us the happiness we need.
Well, fortunately for you guys, it seems to be going quite well on both teams at the moment. So good on you. That for us tomorrow.
Yeah, lucky. Yes, luck, but not too much luck. Wanted to start with some of the moves made by FC Copenhagen. Humble financial moves in comparison to what City does. We can't compare the two, and I want to try to
obviously not.
Yes. But what I would like to know before we start talking about the players is, how does FC Copenhagen handle the transfer market? Is it what they did where they sold a young player for a larger fee in order to finance other moves? Is the Champions League and the money that you receive there an expectation? Yeah, how does the club get the money to finance their player acquisitions?
I'm going to get a bashing from other Danish teams for saying this, but I do consider FC Copenhagen to be a developing club in the sense that we develop young players and we sell them for big money. It's not that the club is going to finance and buy more and more players. It's more that it's a springboard, so to say. So usually we sell higher than we purchase, and that's the whole deal for the game, for the team. However, compared to other Danish teams, we are considered the big player. We are considered the biggest team in Denmark, both in terms of the sport and but very much so in the financials. FC Copenhagen would be the city of Manchester City of Denmark in that matter, at least. However, since FC Copenhagen has proven quite successful in the European games and has been getting a lot of attention from other foreign teams due to their success in Champions League and Europa League. Obviously, players from FC Copenhagen who do well internationally, they will also be purchased for high fees. So we cannot compete with other teams in Champions League or Europa League financially. However, it is a quite competitive team in my opinion, nevertheless.
Yeah. Obviously, you're in the Champions League, third at the moment in your league, so those are positive things. Players like Magnus Madsen, Elias Akuri, Bigger Milan, Jordan Larson. Sorry if I'm saying these names wrong. We're all brought in for about 13 million euros. So these moves were financed off of the transfer of Haraldsen for 15 million euros, multiple loanees, some free transfers. Have any of these players brought in become key players to the current squad?
Yeah, you've done your homework, obviously. I can say that at least players such as Elias Etchery has done quite well already. He has made a big impact in a short time and is definitely considered a key player. Players like Mohamed Elyanousi was also a big star for FC Copenhagen to get into the squad, and he's also proven quite well, especially internationally, especially in the Champions League and in the group stages. He's been proven to be a big player, a big game player, and I think we'll circle back to this when we talk about the game itself. But I think that he has definitely proven to be a great addition to the team in many ways. But since we are talking about transfers and ingoing transfers, you mentioned Magnus Madsen, a Danish player, and we got from I think it was NEC Nijmegen from the Dutch league. He was our greatest transfer this transfer window. However, I'm not quite sure that he will be playing in the games here against City. I think it's too early for him to join the squad. However, we did rent a centre back that you might be quite familiar with, Scott McKenna from Nottingham Forest, and I think that he will definitely be starting in the game, and he will be the only new addition to the FC Copenhagen squad you will be facing. That being said, I think that Magnus Madsen will maybe be used as a substitute, not as part of the starting 11, even though he's bought with the starting 11 in mind.
I love it. Actually, what time is I've already done a show recording at 7 a.m. my time.
Yeah.
It is now 10 a.m. Yeah, it is now 10 a.m. my time. So I've just finished my pastry and my cold brew. So what time is it right now where you are?
Yeah, I think it's 11 past 5, 5 p.m. here. So it's a 7-hour difference.
Yeah,
in
hopefully
our
I'm
time.
not getting in the way of your dinner. Your
Absolutely not.
evening.
No. I'm visiting a friend right now, and he has promised me that we're going out later, so everything's all right on my
Okay.
end.
Okay, great.
He's a patient man, fortunately, or he
Appreciate
has to
him.
be.
So let's talk about FC Copenhagen's manager, Jacob Niedstrup. What can you tell me about him and his managerial style?
Well, Jakob Nielstrup is he's a quite a young coach. He's only 35 years old. He was the former assistant coach at the team, and he was promoted to head coach when the former head coach was sacked. And he has proven quite well. He has one of the greatest accumulated points of any Copenhagen coach, and he has been quite successful, even though he's quite a young trainer, even in Denmark, and certainly in by European standards as well internationally. He has changed FC Copenhagen's style of play to a more aggressive, more entertaining football team. At least in the National League, it has been a more aggressive, more possession-based. I mean, still possession-based as the former, but however, they put the ball in play early on, and they try to create as many chances as possible. It's a high risk, high reward style of play. Very entertaining to watch as a fan. However, it has proven somewhat difficult. They have had some difficulties defensively this season that they didn't have with the prior coach. So you can expect an aggressive team. Not necessarily against City. We'll get into that later on. But as a team, he has been an advocate for entertaining football at least.
You managed to get second in the group stage. You won a couple of matches. Yeah, I don't feel you can do that by playing tentatively. So hearing that he does want to play a more entertaining match,
absolutely,
that makes me very excited, especially after we just played a team who did basically 2 banks of 4 and made an incredibly ugly match.
It is, and however, I'm going to disappoint you here. I know you have this planned later on in the podcast, but I'll just get to it now. I believe that it's going to be quite a destructive match, quite a destructive tactic by FC Copenhagen. That is entirely due to the opponent being Manchester City.
Yes.
When Manchester City and FC Copenhagen were paired, I was devastated because Manchester City's style of play, it doesn't suit FC Copenhagen that well, and that is entirely something to do with the playing style. We've played up against Bayern Munich, we've bested Manchester United, and we've bested Galatasaray, but I don't think that the playing style and the tactics of Manchester City sits well with FC Copenhagen. FC Copenhagen has had great success facing opponents high up in the pitch with a hard pressure, even against strong possession-based teams such as Bayern Munich. And this is, of course, due to FC Copenhagen often being the dominating team in the National League and the team that has had some defensive issues in their build-up. It is a team that has had some defensive issues in their build-up play, going from phase 1 to phase 2. I'm speaking of FC Copenhagen here, and I think this will be a problem against Manchester City because it has left FC Copenhagen very vulnerable to counterattacks, and I consider Manchester City to be perhaps the best team to efficiently counterattack. I mean, Haaland is a force to be reckoned with, and I know that Manchester City has many ways to unlock any team, but this particular thing has proven a flaw in FC Copenhagen's season so far domestically. And I know that it's well, speaking of Jakob Nielstrup, it is a major focus area to our head coach going into this match.
Hey, how do the fans feel about him? Do they enjoy what he's doing at the moment?
Absolutely, he's in very high regards. Even though that FC Copenhagen is currently placed third in the domestic table, that is considered quite disappointing, to be honest. But due to the success in the Champions League, I think that if you ask any FC Copenhagen fan, they will say that he's a great manager all the way through. And as I said early on, he has proven quite consistent. And last season, FC Copenhagen they were champions and won the league, and they did so despite being behind. I think it was 12 points at its worst when he took over the reels. And he made a turnaround in the squad and made a turnaround in the tournament, and fortunately FC Copenhagen came out on top. So he's considered in high regards among the fans and also among football journalists in Denmark.
That's always good to hear, because I don't want to be, because when City comes to a place, obviously you're probably hoping for a more favorable draw, and coming against City, and if a manager is on the ropes, you then having to play Manchester City, that could be the final draw, and I don't really ever want to be that.
Yeah,
I mean, there are a few managers where, like, if we were the end of Erik ten Hag at United, yes, I would love that. But, like, just some random team who in another country who has nothing to do with the Premier League, we wouldn't want to be, the reason why there's like a sacking and stuff like that.
Trust me, you're not going to butcher Jakob Næstrup. He's a rock. So yeah.
I love it.
However, I don't think you should expect coming here and butcher FC Copenhagen, because Parken has proven to be a fortress. I think that the second leg game is going to be perhaps a different story. If Copenhagen manage to get a good result against City at home in Parken, there is a risk that Guardiola and company is going to go out and go all out, and maybe that could end quite embarrassing for FC Copenhagen in the end, let's be honest. But I don't think it's going to be in the first leg. I think that even though City will obviously bring a force to reckon with, I think that it's going to be tighter than many Manchester City fans might think in this leg. And that's, of course, me being optimistic as an FC Copenhagen fan, but it has been proven time and time again, even in these big games, at least home in Parken.
I want you to come here and be proud and boastful of your club, especially at home. Like, if there's any time you're going to be like, hey, we're going to bring it to Manchester City, it should be at home.
Obviously, yeah.
Yes, I am interested on the players on the squad that you feel are standouts. Do you have a defender who might make Haaland's job very difficult? Do you have a striker who might give us fits for you guys? Maybe get that first early goal that can establish dominance, or that, like you said, you're going to bring the destructive style of play. Yeah, I'm interested to hear about the players on the squad.
Right. I think you're going to like this one that I'm going to pick out for you, because he's not a destructive player. He's a finesse player. He's very delicate to watch, and he's a magnificent player all the way through. To be honest, he shouldn't be playing in FC Copenhagen. He's been the time and time again the best player from FC Copenhagen internationally, and I'm talking about the player called Rasmus Falk. He plays as a defensive midfielder. However, he's quite graceful in anything he does. He can move on through the ranks, and he can find spaces. And even though he's being pressured, he can still find solutions. And he's going to be a key player for FC Copenhagen. If we're going to get a positive result, it will be because he has a great game. He's time and time again, he's been awarded by UEFA the Player of the Match award in the group stages. and he's a delight to watch. He's a strong dribbler. He's a great passer, and he's able to find space even in the narrowest places, and that will be the case against City because obviously the central midfield of Manchester City is going to be a place with many great players, and certainly the toughest opponent that Rasmus Falk has faced yet. However, yes, in games against Manchester United, he has been the greatest delight to watch. So keep an eye out for Rasmus Falk. Also, you might remember our goalie as well, Kamil Grabara, the Polish goalkeeper. Last year, he saved a penalty against Manchester City, and he has been sold to Wolfsburg in Germany. And I personally think that isn't as big a step up as it should have been. He is a goalkeeper for a bigger address than Wolfsburg, and he could certainly be playing in a at least mid to top tier Premier League team. So he's another player that is boxing out of his league in FC Copenhagen, and he needs to perform well as well if FC Copenhagen is going to have a good result. So those who are the key players. You mentioned if someone were to score a goal against Manchester City, I think that it's the most likely bid would be Mohamed Elyounoussi, whom, as I said earlier, is a big game player, and he has been able to score from situations where it wasn't it came out of nothing, and to score against City will be a situation that comes from nothing.
Yes.
I don't find it that likely that Jakob Nielsen will have a game plan where he has directions for a goal starting from the goalie and up through the defensive lines, perhaps switching side to side and then ending in the box. I think that it's going to be something that's either spectacular or very random. And Mohamed Elyounoussi is the player to expect it from.
When City give up goals, it tends to be either a mundane thing out of nothing or the most glorious goal we've ever seen. People score worldies against us. I feel like every year in the Puskas Award, or what is that, the name of the goal of the year? I feel like
Puskas would be it.
Yeah, there's always one person who has scored a goal against Manchester City on it. It just never fails.
Yeah. And I mean, funny enough, it's the exact opposite against FC Copenhagen. I mean, all the goals scored against us, they are ugly as hell. It's often where the players make a mistake in the build-up play, and it's a counter-attack, as I said earlier on, and it's mistakes being punished. And the reason why FC Copenhagen has been so successful in this Champions League run is because there has been so few mistakes. But we see these mistakes in the domestic league. So hopefully it's a matter of focus. Hopefully it's a matter of these European nights being so spectacular, being something that they can. Yeah, I don't know. They tend to perform very well in these big games. But most goals scored against FC Copenhagen has not been worthless, except for against Galatasaray in the group stage. They were all right.
We can mix the next two subjects because you did talk a little bit about how you have been feeling about the season. And the next one is also your previous 5 matches. The problem with that is you're in this weird little friendlies, and your last actual match, like league match or anything like that, was January 20th. So kind of been in this weird little lull, I guess you could call it. How are you feeling about the club going from this break to these friendlies to now having to do Champions League matchup against Manchester City?
I am so glad that's how you chose to phrase the question, because prior to this podcast, this live stream, you told me to prepare the previous 5 games, and I thought, oh, well, that was so long ago, and am I going to talk about the Champions League games or the domestic league games? Am I going to talk about the training matches here? And
Yes.
FC Copenhagen, they just went to Portugal in Algarve, and they did quite well there, but it's a training match, so. Well, what do you
Yeah, what
say?
can you take from that?
What can you
Yeah.
take from that? And I think that is a major issue for FC Copenhagen tomorrow, because obviously Manchester City, they come in form, they come from games that matter, and FC Copenhagen, the players, they need to be in the right mindset, and I think that's extremely hard going from such a big break, and I think that is it gives me some concern as a fan and as a journalist that we do not know the form of FC Copenhagen, and the
Mm.
new players from this transfer windows this transfer window, they've not been accustomed to the tactics. I mean, if FC Copenhagen were continuously playing matches, they would get a much quicker start to the tactics and the understanding of how Jakob Næsgaard wants to play the game. This is not the case. We have no idea how these guys will perform, which is also why I think a player such as Magnus Madsen will not be starting.
Mm.
And Scott McKenna, he will be starting, but it will be out of necessity due to injuries, and not because it's the most optimal approach. So it does give me quite some worries. And then another thing is that usually when you have these breaks, it's a chance to get rid of injuries. It's a chance to get your squads back and to get going with a full squad. That has not been the case for FC Copenhagen. We have many injuries, and we have significant injuries. And the reverse has been the case for Manchester City. I mean, I'm not glad that the guys will be facing Kevin De Bruyne tomorrow. And
Yes. Rested too.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Halan.
So
yeah, we're
yeah,
like you said,
Haaland as well. So
we're starting to get healthy
as
at the end
strong
of
as
the season.
again
Where
as can get.
yeah,
Yeah.
where a lot of teams are seeming to losing their players. It's an interesting time for sure. Pep rested our players. I feel he had to bring Kevin on and Kyle Walker, Jack Grealish. Even I feel like Bernardo. All of these players who came on as subs yesterday against Everton, they will be starting. He
How
gave each of them like their few minutes, but that was more to prime them to be available for this match against FC Copenhagen.
the hope for FC Copenhagen can be that it's a double-edged sword, in the sense that you played yesterday and maybe feel some fatigue, but as you said, Pep was wise in the sense that he has rested some of the key players, and I do expect Manchester City to come with full force, and
Yeah.
yeah, that bothers me.
The Sunday to or Saturday to Tuesday turnaround is pretty intense, but it is what it is, and I am interested. Pep is pretty good at not being too spicy about match fixtures being very close. He used to scream about it a lot, but
Yeah,
it just brings more vitriol from the media. So he has just
yeah,
relaxed and been like, hey, if the players want to change it, the players need to change it. And that has been his what he has just been saying for the season is I just manage what I do. I just do my job. If the players feel like this is too many games, the players need to come together and make the change.
and I think that approach suits him, because the other thing, as you imply, it brings noise from the media and from opposing fans as well. So I think it suits him well for that approach, and especially going into such a big game as the one we are playing tomorrow. I mean, even though I know that FC Copenhagen and Manchester City are not comparable in many ways, it is still a Champions League final in some sense. So I think one of the tough things that City is going to be facing is that there's of course the crowd, and there's also the expectations, because you say that you said earlier on that you wouldn't want to come and end Jakob Næstrup's career by defeating him. I think that the humiliation wouldn't be if FC Copenhagen were to lose, or were to lose even big. I think the humiliation would be if Manchester City were to lose this game in any sense. Even though if they were to bounce back in Manchester, I still think that it would be it could be considered slightly humiliating losing in Copenhagen tomorrow. And I say this with all respect.
Oh, of course, you're 100% right. If City managed to even, and I mean this in the nicest way, draw against FC Copenhagen, it's going to be all over everything. Lots of laughs, and we're just going to have to, take it and just wait until the away match. We obviously would believe that we would come through at home, because that just seems to be what happens, especially at home. But everyone would be very nervous. There would be a lot of chatter, a lot of buzzing.
And that might also be the key for FC Copenhagen to beat Manchester City, is that this could turn out to be a nervous game. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on these city players. I think that if FC Copenhagen were to last until, let's say, keep it 0-0 until the 60th minute, I think that if Copenhagen are to get a result against City, they need to play destructive football for the first hour of the game. They need to tire Manchester City and get them frustrated. And I think with the stands in their backs, that is not unachievable in any way. And then in the final half an hour of the game, you can start pressure and you can start playing this attacking football I was talking about earlier on. And then hopefully hope for something spectacular to happen, or a mistake if the City players are getting frustrated, or by any chance lose their heads. But it's not often the case, but one can hope.
This season has been a wild season. Multiple players, specifically Rodri, has lost his head multiple times. We know our nonsense. You may or may not know about Kyle Walker's off the pitch nonsense. And there's been some interesting things that have gone on, and anything is possible in football, especially in Champions League knockout. That's what you love about it, right? Is anything is possible. That's what the Champions League is made for.
It is. Those European nights.
Yes. European mid-afternoons for me, unfortunately. So starting 11 prediction. I know some people, this isn't like their normal forte, so I'm not gonna hold you to it and be like, this is what the gospel and this is what I am to expect. But what do you like to see, or what are you expecting to see?
This has proven quite a difficult task for me because there are so many key injuries in the FC Copenhagen team. So it's not like I am picking this is the strongest lineup. This is the necessary lineup. And also there are some unanswered questions because if Jakob Næstrup is going with a disruptive tactic, then he might do something very different. However, this is my predicted lineup as you gave me the task to. The easy one is the goalkeeper position. That will obviously be Kamil Grabara, who has proven very well and is the definite first keeper. The two centre backs, I think. Do you want the lineup, the formation?
Yeah, you can do it however you want. The formation or whatever, however you want.
Yeah, I believe that it's most likely going to be a 4-3-3 formation with a defensive midfielder and two attacking midfielders, two wide wingers, and a false nine in the attack. Due to injuries, our left back will be played no matter what out out of position, it's going to be either Elias Jelert or Kevin Dix. I believe it's going to be Elias Jelert. He's usually a right back, but he'll be playing left back because that position is injured. The usual suspect would be Bjørn Meling, another recent transfer not too long ago. However, he's injured. The left centre back will be Scott McKenna. And what a debut for him. Then next to him will be Denis Vavro. And on the right side will be Peter Ankersen. And the reason why this is the lineup with Scott McKenna and Denis Vavro is because these are two massive powerhouses. I mean, you'd expect it to stand outside a nightclub rather than on a football pitch. I think that will be the reason why these two will be starting in the centre back. You could play the player called Kevin Dix instead. He's been the usual go-to guy and the best central centre back this season. However, given that Erling Haaland is the striker, I think it will be likely Scott McKenna and Denis Vavro in the centre backs. Then we have the infamous Rasmus Falk in the holding midfielder position. Then we'll have the dead ball specialist Diogo Gonçalves and the captain Victor Claesson as the attacking midfielders, two attacking centre midfielders. Diogo Gonçalves has proven quite proficient in taking penalties and free kicks, and he should also be one to watch out for during dead ball situations.
Okay.
On the left winger position, I expect it to be Elias Achuri, and on the right side, Mohamed Elyounoussi, and in the front, Andreas Cornelius. He has been quite injury prone this his entire FC Copenhagen career, and he's been missing many games. He hasn't been that consistent. He has yet to score goals since we brought him back. He's a previous FC Copenhagen player who's been bought back several times, but he is a massive guy and he's very, very strong. He's also part of the Danish national team, and given that I expect this to be a physical game, I think that he's the likely choice, even though he hasn't been the first choice in any Champions League game. So I think he's the rabbit in the hat. I don't know if that's an English idiom or a Danish one, but I hope you understand the meaning.
Yes, I did. And honestly, that's one of the biggest things I enjoy about bringing people from all around is the idioms and the sayings, all that stuff. Because it's fun. It's especially as Americans, we as people can get very stuck in our own little bubble. So I love trying to pick up little quips and sayings from other people.
You've been most welcoming so far. So thank you very much.
Thanks. Yeah, and I'll quickly give what I think we will see.
Yes.
Our formation is usually always the same. It's like a 4-2-3-1. Ederson will be our keeper, left back. I think for this match, he's been doing 3 center backs and a wide back of some sort, either right or on the left. So I think we'll have Nathan Ake on the left. I believe Josko Vardiol is injured at the moment, so I don't think we're going to see him. He might play, but I'm not sure. Akanji, then Diaz. Akanji and Diaz as a center back pairing, and Walker as our right back. Center midfield trio of Rodri. I believe we'll probably put Bernardo next to him as support, because that is kind of what we do is when he knows that there are going to be teams who are going to be trying to make the initial pass to Rodri very difficult. He needs a player who can kind of take the ball in any position and get out of that. And that is Bernardo to a T. From there, we have KDB as the other one. Grealish on his left, Foden on his right, and Erling Haaland up top.
Yeah, as you can hear, it's a 50-50 almost. I mean, it's gonna be so tight.
Yes, it's a very close match. I'm not gonna
Well, we
lie, I very
consider
much.
Rasmus Falk our Bernardo Silva, so bring it on.
Hey, no, I'm gonna be watching him. This is what I love about talking to. There's enough when it's Premier League teams. I'm pretty familiar with them, but when it comes to teams like FC Copenhagen, and when we play just outside of our league, that's when I really love hearing about the teams.
Yeah, he's gonna be easy to spot because he plays in the number 33, and you're gonna love this. His arms are flailing when he runs.
When he runs,
Yeah, exactly. It
okay,
looks
yes, let's
absolutely
go.
silly.
And,
So you'll recognize
style.
him instantly.
And you said that he does a lot of the distribution and does fancy things, so
He
he will
does.
stick out.
But
I love
not just the distribution, but especially the breakthrough plays. Because once you play him, he can go in either direction. Even though he has an opponent on his back, he will somehow find a way to turn around him. And he's good at finding other players in narrow spaces. He shows them he trusts them to play even in narrow spaces, and then he moves into another free space and creates something different. He's a very creative player and an absolute joy to watch. And as I said, he is way too big for FC Copenhagen and has been for many years. He was there. There were many times where he was promised to go to a bigger league. However, due to family reasons and due to being very fond of Copenhagen, he has chosen to stay several times, even though he was able to go to a bigger address. But he is the one to watch for. But that being said, there's a quarantine. There's a quarantine player called Lucas Lea, which you won't be seeing in this game, and he has been a key player in the Champions League and in the league as well. He is the physical part of the midfield, and he's very box to box. I would have mentioned him if it were not for his quarantine. I think he would be better suited in the game against Manchester City because FC Copenhagen's hope is to play a bit destructive. And Rasmus Falk is a graceful player. He stands out in the sense that of all the players in the Champions League, he is the one who has run by far the farthest. He has run the most kilometers, miles. So he's very involved everywhere on the pitch, even in the defensive tasks. But he's not that physical a player, and I think that could be his Achilles heel in a game like this. However, that being said, he has time and time again always showed up to these big games where you expect FC Copenhagen to play defensively, and yet he has still stand out as the extraordinary one and the one to watch.
Okay. How do you feel or how do you see this match playing out? And if I can get a score prediction out of you, how do you see, with the score?
My inner optimist tells me it's going to be a 1-1 draw. And I expect Mohamed El-Yanoussi to be the one scoring the FC Copenhagen goal. The realist tells me that it's going to be a 1-0, 2-0 loss to Manchester City. Manchester City being the victor. However, as I said previously, I do not expect this to be a walkover for City. Parken, or the Park, as our stadium is called, is considered a fortress in these European games. The last time you guys were here, it was a 0-0 draw, and I think and many other big teams teams considered giants have left Copenhagen empty-handed. And I think this is due to the intensity from the stands. On the pitch, Manchester City will feel the pressure unlike anything they face in England, despite the crowd being on the lower side of 40,000 spectators. It is really something else, and this is not just me as a fan trying to talk this up. They are quite well known for the atmosphere, just as they are in Turkish football. And this often shocks away teams in Parken. So that speaks to FC Copenhagen's chances. And so to sum it up, the optimist tells me it's going to be a 1-1 draw. The realist tells me it's going to be a narrow loss.
Worst case scenario, a 1-1 draw is delightful. So then we just go back home, just 0, start another match. Basically, may the best team win at home. I would take our chances for that, most definitely. I think it's gonna be tough. We have only kept, what is it, like 2 clean sheets out of our last 13 games or something like that. We tend to give up a goal. We tend to either give it up in the first 7 minutes of the match or the last 7 minutes of the match. Either way,
sounds like Copenhagen.
It annoys me. So I think we're gonna give away a goal. It could be a 2-1. I don't see us winning more than 2. So if it ends up being 3-1, I'd be shocked. I could see it being 3-2. I could even see it being 3-2. Just chaos, a lot going on. The team is still trying to get used to each other, especially with this new, with all these matches coming into play. Pep loves to rotate. All of these players need to learn each other in different circumstances. So it's gonna be interesting. Very interesting.
Absolutely, yeah. I think this is going to be a very exciting match in many ways. My biggest fear is, as I said earlier on, I do not know the exact conditions of the team of FC Copenhagen, because of course I've watched the training matches in Portugal, but it's hard to tell what to get from that. It's hard to tell what's the condition when facing Manchester City in Parken. In a European game like this. So there are a lot of unknowns concerning FC Copenhagen, and that's definitely to the benefit of Manchester City, not the other way around.
And I'll take it. Well, Shady Gang, once again, please give it up for our guest. Yeah. I really do appreciate you giving me an hour of your time to.
It's been a pleasure.
On this team. Please plug yourself, plug what you're up to, and your podcast, your group.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I guess maybe plug that.
Sorry.
Translate. Please let listeners know where they can find you on social media.
Oh, sorry.
Listen to your podcast. Sorry, I realized I used a term that does not translate very well. So
sorry, actually you fell entirely out. So I was just completely guessing.
I apologize for that. Then
right.
Technology. So yes, just let people know where they can find you and what you contribute to.
Well, you can find Kvart I Bold at Twitter or on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. It's in Danish though, so you need to be proficient in Danish. But it's as I said, it roughly translates to a quarter to football. However, if English is your native tongue, then we're not for you.
Okay. At least on social media, it translates for you. So that part does it for me. Yes. Well, thanks again. Shades of Blue, Shady Gang watching. We will be back tomorrow for we're going to be doing a watch along for Man City versus Copenhagen. Daphne will be joining us. Very much looking forward to that. Then on Wednesday, we have another Breaking Bread for City men's matchup against Chelsea. Melina Dodovic will be joining us for that. Thursday, we have our lit stream every Thursday night where we bring 3 guests on one at a time to just conversate a wild week of football. And then Saturday, when City men play Chelsea. We will be doing a watch along because we need to see in person with our own eyes, how is Raheem? How is Cole Palmer? Overall, how is Chelsea as a football club doing this week? Because, it changes all the time. You know what the vibes are. Shady Gang, Shady Gang, Shady Gang.